Thanks for being late, guys.
All good.
That's, you just missed some technical difficulty.
Yeah, no, we're late too.
All right.
There you go. Now we're going live on YouTube.
How are you?
Good.
Croatia.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Molly, right?
Sally,
How are you?
good. How are you? I haven't seen you in years.
No, it's been a while. I've actually seen you, but
Oh, yeah,
I've not realized.
yeah.
What are you doing?
Interning. Here? Yeah,
This is great.
yeah.
How's your brother?
He's doing good. Yeah, I don't know if you know, but he joined the Navy out of college. Stationed in Pensacola right now,
Okay.
doing flight training and stuff.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So exceptional.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. Of course, it's a great time to be a Navy pilot with a new Top Gun to be out.
Very sexy.
Uh-huh.
Okay, let's start our meeting now. Thank you guys for that.
I'm a little rusty and a little informal.
Good and good.
I was like, it's 2 PM. We can wear sweats, right? It's committee meeting.
I was wearing shorts all day, but then I went for a walk during the rain, so I had pants on.
Okay, so I'm coaching bike camp this week. Wait, are we starting?
Oh, yeah, it was,
Okay, yeah, start. Oh, it's not important,
okay.
but very caught in the
And
rain.
into all these things I don't want to, okay. Go away. Don't send optional data. Okay, so this is the Personnel and Ordinance Committee meeting. We are starting a little late for 2:41. But we have today, our first item is our tobacco ordinance. And so we have a draft ordinance in front of you all for changing our tobacco ordinance. I have Amy here and I have both of you here from the health department to present on an update to our code regarding tobacco sales. And I think it's been about a year we've been working on this. So very excited to present this to you. And we also have Eric here as well, and I'm gonna allow him to talk. And then change this view a little bit. There we go. And he's from the Colorado School of Public Health. Great. So in your presentation, if you want to come up here and talk us through this ordinance.
Great, and did you get my presentation PowerPoint?
Yeah.
I just emailed it to you. Yeah. And you guys also have a key provision sheet in the packet. That'll be helpful for moving on and following along with the presentation.
Great.
Yeah, I'm a little nervous.
We're very intimidating.
I know.
No.
Should I start whenever?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, just 1 second.
Yeah.
Are we doing? Do we need to do roll call or anything else like that? Or since it's all on video?
It's all on video right now and we're live as well. So we do have all our members present.
And then I would also,
Jim here. Wait, is Jim still on the committee? I thought we had changed committees, right? Of the composition.
think so.
I did.
You're welcome to stay on, but I think did I send you an invite?
You sent him an invite as well. He sent me one. Yep.
And then also on our agenda, we do, in the meeting protocols, we say that we're not taking public comment, but then item 2 on the agenda is public comment. And someone asked me if they would be able to make a public comment.
Yes, because we had agreed upon the
Right.
trustees agreement. So that's just a typo because sometimes we use the same agenda item or agendas. So that's just a typo on there. We are taking public comment.
Okay.
It's on the agenda if we wanted to take public comment, but we can also take that throughout which I think is what we had agreed upon, right? Is to take it throughout the meeting.
Yeah.
So that's just left over from a previous one.
Would we be able to ask if anyone who's on the attendee list wants to do public comment before we kick it off? Just
Sure.
that's what's on the agenda.
Let's grab these attendees.
Sorry, Amy.
Oh, you're fine. This is great.
And we have Carol Logan. Hi, Carol.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Sort of.
Yes, I just have to turn you
I
up.
have a tendency to cover my microphone. Sorry. And I can't find the video on it, but anyways, so I can make comment once the special events guide and ordinance comes up.
Okay. Yeah, why don't we do that? So that it's fresh in mind when we start talking about that topic, if that works for you.
That works for me if that works for you.
Okay, cool. Thank you,
Okay,
Carol. We'll
great.
make sure to come back to you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment at this time? Okay, cool. Sorry about that. Thank you.
Okay, no problem.
The floor is all yours.
Yeah, and then I'll just wait till the presentation gets.
That's me to do always sign. Just, yeah, you want to start your presentation and I will.
Sure, absolutely.
This over.
All right, well, thank you guys for having us today to talk a bit about some tobacco control improvements and work we've been doing. My name is Amy Bakoki. I work with San Juan County Public Health. This past year, I became the Tobacco Prevention and Cessation Coordinator at Public Health as well. With me today, we have Becky Joyce, our director, and Eric Brodell from the Colorado School of Public Health. He'll be presenting a few slides today. He's been a super great asset to us here in Silverton as well. Great. So we're going to start off today by giving you guys some background and context about what's been happening with tobacco control work on the federal level, the state level, and just some local history about tobacco control work. And then after that, we're going to go into our proposed improvements and changes. First, we're going to talk about updating our local tobacco license for Silverton. After that, we can take a quick break for any questions or comments, and then go into possession, use, and purchase laws and public health's recommendation when it comes to that, minors and tobacco, and then just giving you guys some educational resources available in Silverton. All right, and to start us off for the first two slides, we are going to have Eric Brodell present them for some federal and state updates.
Hi, everyone. I hope that you can hear me all right. And sorry, I don't see an option to be on camera or else I would. But like Amy said, my name's Eric. I'm from the Colorado School of Public Health. I've worked in commercial tobacco control policy for the past 6 years here in Colorado. And I work with public health agencies across the state to help bring local policies that make sense for the respective communities and what they're looking to do with tobacco prevention and control from policy perspective. I'll kick things off here with a few federal updates. We'll go from federal to state to local, and then some of the things that y'all are talking about here today. These federal updates are largely a result of state and local movement on policies. For example, the minimum legal sales age increase here, which is also known as Tobacco 21, was really a decades-long push by local public health agencies and advocates here in the state. Aspen passed the first Tobacco 21 law in 2017, and then movement spread from there to other localities and eventually to our state legislature in 2020. So in this case, the federal government actually did get to it before our state government, but it was in part because of the massive number of policies that had been passed around the country at that point in other states, and because of the national news cycle and craze around youth vaping and a connected lung disease called EVALI, which stands for e-cigarette or vaping associated lung injury. The next item here on the list there is the federal flavored vapor pod ban. That went into effect around the same time as the Tobacco 21 did, about a year later. And it was, again, the result of a big news cycle around this EVALI disease and the high number of adolescents that were reporting using vapor products. Because this ban was so narrow, we saw a lot of substitution of flavored disposable products, which I'm sure some of you have seen or are familiar with. Some individuals quit altogether, but others just switched to easily accessible flavored disposable products. And then finally on the list here of the federal items, the FDA recently announced the removal of menthol flavored tobacco products with a public comment period and a rulemaking period. We really don't know how long this is going to take, but imagine that it'll be some oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's,
Can you all hear me all right?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
sorry, we're just having a technical issue. 1 second.
Okay, yeah.
you're probably fine.
Are you good?
Yeah. All right, we're all good. Go ahead. Sorry.
All right, yeah, no problem. And of course, if you have any questions while I'm speaking here, just don't hesitate to interrupt me and ask. And then, finally here, there are over 300 communities around the country and 6 in Colorado that have some sort of flavored tobacco sales ban in place and some new policy going on there. But the real message I want to get across here with these federal and state updates is that it's usually smaller and more health conscious communities that move the needle on tobacco prevention policy. And your town is definitely uniquely positioned to continue that trajectory for Southwest Colorado and other communities like Silverton around the state. So just moving on quickly here to the state updates on the next slide.
I just want to move on to one more slide.
These 2 bills right here are very important for us. This first one is probably the most pivotal pieces of tobacco prevention legislation in Colorado. So back in 2019, the state legislature removed existing language that preempted localities from regulating cigarettes expressly. The penalty on that would basically be a stop on the share back of state cigarette tobacco tax dollars. So many communities shied away from doing that. But thankfully, after a large amount of communities passed tobacco retailer licensing, including Silverton, the state legislature decided to remove this language and would take funding away from those communities. So given this new legislation, a lot more communities around the state have become more involved in their local involvement in tobacco prevention policy. And namely, there were over 30 localities in 2019 alone that passed local policy to regulate all tobacco products, including cigarettes. And then just moving on to this last one here, House Bill 2010-01 is the state tobacco retail licensing system and also the repeal of statewide minor in possession language, which we'll touch on today as well. This was, again, the effect of a lot of communities passing retail licensing at the local level, and the push for advocates at the state house to make sure that we had a state licensing system that was covering areas of our communities that weren't covered by local retail licenses. So they, like I mentioned, they also repealed minor in possession language from state statute. It's been shown through research and surveying that these policies don't deter tobacco use, so they don't have their intended effect, and they also don't encourage quitting or using using tobacco products overall. And then just the last thing here is, again, I'll touch on that all of these state and federal updates come from local movement. We all know that state legislatures and the federal government are really slow machines for a lot of different reasons. So instead of waiting on their inaction and excuses or bureaucracy, we're really lucky enough to make this our own subjects in Colorado and do this locally, take the steps that we all know is going to work to help prevent and deter tobacco use and promoting healthy lifestyles within our communities. Thanks for having me here today. I'll stick around for the entire presentation. Any questions that you have that Amy can't answer there, which I'm sure she'll be able to answer all of them. I'll be happy to talk to those. So thanks again.
Thanks, Eric.
Okay, so now we're going to talk a little bit about some local history pertaining to tobacco control and ordinance work. And to present that, we do have Becky, as she's been doing this for many years.
So thank you. I'm Becky, and I just want to say that Amy's taken the reins for at least the last year or two. since we've been a little busy with other things. And so she's the expert today on what we're presenting to you. I became public health director in 2015 and continued tobacco control work like the Youth Coalition. Any type of work that we could do to really educate and help youth not initiate tobacco use. So you've seen me, maybe not in your roles, but in here throughout the years. You know, in 2016, there was a local tobacco retail license that was created. I cannot for the life of me I don't think I was involved in that, to be honest. And so the license fee was $1. I don't know who initiated that. And if I've forgotten all about that, that's a bad sign. But for some reason, the trustees, you know, initiated this, which is really awesome because there's a lot of counties that actually don't even have a retail license. So already progressive. And then we passed, I believe it was in 2017. That was really big. It probably took 3 years to get our parks smoke-free and our little Kindle Mountain. And so that was huge. And I had a lot of support from a lot of people, petitions, you know, 30 to 35 people on the adult coalition at that time to help. And then the youth did most of the work, just with coming and talking to the council. And then recently, more so the school has taken over. We had a really wonderful social justice program from the state, very evidence-based, and it really went into, instead of saying, don't smoke or don't vape, it went into social justice issues. And that really seemed to speak to the middle and high schoolers. And so that's what they were doing. And then just obviously a little bit of derailment of plans. But so just to let you know that it has been a really big influence and a big presence in the past that the public health department has been, or public health service has been trying to work with the community and with the school, and has had a lot of support. That's it for me.
Thank you, Becky. All right, and now that brings us to what we are proposing today. Gloria, if you just want to do one slide forward. All right, so first we're going to talk about our proposed Silverton retail license. You guys do have a rough draft of a copy of the ordinance along with the key provision sheet as well. So the first thing we do want to improve on this ordinance is the definition of a tobacco product. Our current license refers to tobacco products as cigarette sales. And as we know, there are many other forms of tobacco on the market, especially some that attract youth. We want to include all forms of tobacco in the code, including vapes, electronic cigarettes, cigars, chew, synthetic nicotine, and any other potential new products the tobacco industry may come out with in the future. The second thing we do want to enact here is declaring a distance requirement of 1,000 feet from youth-oriented facilities for new locations. And we do say new locations because there is one retailer that is 500 feet from an area that used to host some youth-oriented activities. They haven't recently, the youth center. Oh. Yeah, they haven't recently, but just to work with our retailers as well, we kind of want to grandfather those 3 into this clause. So for any new retailers coming into Silverton, they cannot be 1,000 feet from a youth-oriented facility. The next thing we do want to talk about is an increase of license fee. As Becky mentioned earlier, our current local license fee is $1 annually. Now we are ahead by having a local retail license, as there are still counties in Colorado who do not, but not much is able to get done with the license being $1 per year. Increasing the price will set a standard for local retailers to obtain their license on time annually, allowing for compliance checks at the local level and build a better relationship with the retailers in addition to the state inspections. And now I am going to stray away from this slide for just a moment to show you a visual representation of what some other counties in Colorado are doing with their tobacco retail license price. And if you could just move to one slide over. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so now these are not all of the counties in Colorado that have a local tobacco retail license, but just a few to give you more of a visual aid. And Gloria, it's kind of those effects where you just click one. Just like do the space bar or anything. Okay. All right, so we have Glenwood Springs right there at $500. Telluride at $175. Pueblo at $100. Salida at $275. Basalt at $275. Breckenridge at $600. Steamboat at $130. Rocky Ford at $150. Manitou Springs at $140, and Boulder at $500 per year. And then you see the blue one right there, that's Silverton, we are $1 per year. All right. And yeah, I just want to show you guys that map so you get an idea of what other people are doing around us with their local license.
Gloria, if you want to go one back before the map.
Oh, sorry, we're just going back to this one. It was a weird setup. Sorry.
There we go.
Okay, great. Okay, now for a exact price recommendation, we have worked on a tobacco retail license price calculator to follow Tabor laws and came up with a range around $100 per year. This $100 would go into administration fees along with enforcement costs. And speaking to enforcement costs, the goal would be to have one compliance check per year with an underage operative and one inspection. The state does conduct compliance checks as well, but have been slowed down by COVID-19 and just picked up a few months ago. We just want to ensure that no retailer is ever missed and the small town of Silverton is never missed. And with the compliance checks as well, we as a public health department would love to be here as support and help. We have resources from the DOR, from the state, not to be the sole person who's enforcing this, but to be a partner with you all in this. All right, we also would like to update our penalty structure, which is shown in the tobacco retail license draft, along with aligning with federal and state law, which means you can't sell tobacco to anyone under the age of 21 now and not 18. And lastly, we want to make it a non-transferable license, meaning that if a business owner sells their store to someone else, they would have to go through the application process again. And those are basically the key provisions of the tobacco retail license. Again, this is just a rough draft as well. Don't expect anything to be passed today, but if you guys have any questions on the tobacco retail license specifically or comments, you can absolutely ask before we move on. Yeah.
I was curious how Tabor limits the amount of the license fee.
It doesn't limit the amount of the license fee. It just so that we use the price calculator to determine line items of what the money would go towards. So it's up to you, the price ultimately, if you want to increase it or decrease it, just as long as we can, compensate for enforcement or administration in that.
So I don't totally understand the Tabor calculator. So it's
Here, I can.
calculating like how much our administrative expenses are related to the licensing fee and then pumping out what we should charge in order to cover those expenses.
Yes. Yeah. So basically what that cost goes into, we would give a $75 gift card to an underage operative. The rest, get them some food as well. And then the rest is administration fees for you guys. Again, ultimately, it's up to you for the decision of the price. We just thought $100 was pretty fair, but it's again, up to you guys in the long.
So just hypothetically, if we wanted to charge $1,000, said,
yeah.
we're going to give the undercover operative a $500 gift certificate and, can we?
Yeah, as long as it's accounted,
As
as long as the money is accounted for, just as you know, too, just in case of an audit for town. I'm sure that's for other licensings as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the highest fee around the state, Eric, correct me if I'm wrong, but is it around $600 for renewal is the highest?
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, no, I'm not making that suggestion. I just wanted to see how it worked.
Yep, absolutely. So the price is up to you. This is just for us doing, for example, best practice is 2 compliance checks a year. To try to, look at what the retailers want as well. And our capacity, put it in there as 1 compliance check per year. Best practice is 2. But for example, if you increase the prices, you can increase enforcement costs and resources going out to retailers.
Another question is, So liquor licensing fees, there's a higher initial application fee and then the renewal fees are lower.
Okay.
I think that's to cover the administrative costs associated with the initial application, which are more significant, and then renewals are
Got it.
significantly less.
Okay.
Would it make sense to mirror that where we have a higher initial fee? And
There are counties who do that. I'm pretty sure Glenwood Springs is like the initial one's really expensive and then annually it is 500. But Eric, do you want to touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. It can be written in so that a new business or a new retailer would have to pay a higher fee for that license to be processed through the administration. But since you already have an existing license, the three that are already in there, they're already in the system, and paying an initial licensing fee that's higher than a recurring one wouldn't necessarily make sense from that historical perspective.
I guess, I mean, they would just be paying renewals since they're already.
Yes. Yeah, but you could write in, if it's, $500 for the first one, $250 for the next, whatever it is, then you could do that.
Got it. I guess my next question is, how different is the administration of tobacco licenses versus liquor licenses? Is it significantly less work or is it about the same?
Significantly less work.
Significantly less work. Okay, so there isn't really a justification for saying that the license fees should be about the same, because from an administrative perspective.
What is a liquor license fee?
I want to say the renewal is $500 a year,
Okay,
but the initial I think might be $1,500.
okay,
Don't quote me on that, but I think
yeah, it's higher,
And also there's less of them too, as far as.
yeah,
So.
because, right.
Variation.
Okay, then my last question is, the community's taken a pretty anti-tobacco stance. Is there any reason to consider these fees from a punitive sense to discourage further licenses going out? Like having a very, very high initial, like grandfathering in everybody else, having $100 renewal fee, but having like a $1,500 or $2,000 or even higher initial application fee as a punitive.
Deterrent, not necessarily.
Not punitive, you're right.
but a
Sorry, as a
deterrent.
deterrent rather than just a regular.
I would be interested in what Eric has to say about just, best practices that is actually effective.
Yeah, the issue is a Tabor audit. I wouldn't want you all to get into any issues with that. And if you're interested in looking more into that as a deterrent to not have more retailers in the community, I can ask our legal counsel what that looks like and get an answer back to you within the week. I definitely just want to make sure that it's in the clear with Tabor for that kind of use of a license.
Sure. Yeah, and then for the Tabor audit, it'd just be a question of like, can we allocate the funds gathered for something directly related, or we'd be in trouble?
That's Eric.
Okay, just a question. I'm not suggesting we do that. I was just curious.
And just one more piece here. The idea of not allowing any further licenses can be written into the existing tobacco retail license. There are plenty of different examples around the country of communities with a tobacco retail license that have banned the sale of, two in California actually, that have banned the sale of tobacco products completely, and then other different product categories. And you can cap the number of licenses in Silverton at 3, and have it only be the grandfathered businesses as well. So there are a few different options there if you're interested in looking at not having any more retailers coming to town.
So that's more like marijuana.
Yeah.
Similar idea, yeah.
So I would suggest that this committee give direction to the trustees that it might be a good idea to cap it at 3 so that we don't have to worry about new licenses fall.
Yeah.
Without.
You mean to have the trustees discuss that as a revision to the ordinance here?
Right, because we just.
Yeah, I know.
So this isn't a decision making.
Absolutely. Yeah, we just wanted to give you our presentation first too.
Yeah, because previously there were the liquor
There
store,
were 4.
and then they chose not to sell tobacco products anymore. And then there was another shop on Main, and he sold cigars, I believe. 3 to 5 years ago. So the 3 establishments right now have been pretty consistent.
So we currently have 3.
Mhm.
So it's 2 gas stations and Silverton Grocery.
Mhm. And
Yeah.
Silverton Grocery does not sell vape products. The gas stations do, which is what we see a higher use of.
Yeah.
especially Youth initiation.
Mhm.
And you do see all of them selling this synthetic nicotine though, which is starting to get really popular. And again, if I'm really sorry, I forgot one bullet point on the key provision sheet. There is a recommended increased age for the clerk to be 21 to sell tobacco. Now that is best practice. It does not need to happen. It can be 18 as long as the clerks are, following the DOR guidelines and ensuring they're not selling to anyone under the age of 21. We did have one of the tobacco stores call us yesterday with very big concerns about that one, just because they do have staff. We are a small town and it's hard to get help. So that can absolutely be 18. I just wanted to let their concerns be known as well, that one of the retailers did not like that.
If any of them are listening, it'd be helpful to get your feedback at our next meeting.
Yeah, I plan to after this go in because I just wanted this to be our initial presentation. And then afterwards, I wanted to connect with all of the retailers and invite them to a public comment session where they can express any concerns they have. I did also invite Bruce Conrad to this, that I'm thinking might be on duty right now as well. So yeah.
And one other piece of feedback from that same store owner was that he felt like the license fee was a redundant fee because the state already charges fees and they already do compliance checks. However, like we just saw in the last couple of years, they haven't been done. We even saw an expired license up on the wall. I mean, it's just something that, I think then we could utilize the money to keep a closer pulse. And if the state does run out of time or people or whatnot, then we still prioritize getting it done.
What's the fee at the state level?
It's $400. Correct me if I'm wrong, Eric, but for most towns, it is 400.
Yeah, there are two different fees, 400 for establishments that make over $100,000 a year in profit from tobacco products, and then it's $200 for those under that.
Oh, so maybe it's $200 for them, probably. But
Yeah.
I don't know the exact.
Also has the state and local fee structure.
And probably marijuana.
Cannabis
Oh,
licenses
no.
are very, very, very expensive at the state level.
What did he say?
He said cannabis licenses are very
Yeah.
expensive at the state level.
So even at the state level, it's not that much money per year. I think $100 is fair considering, these products do kill people. We need to keep a closer eye on our local retail license. Yeah, and it's great we have one, but the fact that it is $1 kind of gets swept under the rug in comparison to other license. So we just want to make sure that we are really on top of the tobacco control work and the retail licensings here in Silverton as well.
Any more questions or feedback on that?
No, thank you so much.
Move on to minors in possession then.
Okay, let me just get back on here. I X'd out for a minute
Okay, on this side.
Go back one if you don't mind. There you go.
and just give me
Okay.
one moment. Okay, so the second part, these are two different parts of the code. We are talking about both of them today just because they do fall under tobacco control work, but will be voted on separately. So minors in possession and possession, use, and purchase. Minor in possession is an offense that occurs when a person under the age of 21 is found with a tobacco product. As Eric mentioned earlier, minors in possession has been removed at the state level as the state found that penalizing youth does not deter them from tobacco use and it is not effective. Minors in possession laws also shift the blame from the person they got the tobacco from, along with shifting the blame from the tobacco industry, who is advertising specifically to young people for certain products. We are recommending to align with the state and repeal the minors in possession at the local level as well. For full transparency, after speaking to our sheriff, he does not want to remove minors in possession language entirely. As an asset to our community and a department that would be impacted by this the most, I do want to take his input into consideration. While public health does recommend a repeal, if town decides to keep minors in possession in the code, we recommend it be reworded to ensure for equitable enforcement. For example, currently the language suggests that a minor may be subject to a $100 fine, or community service or education. The sheriff department does a great job already with giving warnings before ticketing, and they rarely ticket for this. They also do a great job with equitable enforcement, but we want to make sure this stays the way for years to come. Our suggestion is wording it where the offenses are tiered out a bit, meaning, first offense is a warning and a referral to a quit service. Second offense is education and community service. Third offense is then you can get more strict as there. This way, everyone is treated fairly across the board and there's no gray areas in the code.
Do you know why the sheriff's department doesn't want to do that?
Now, I wish he was here to speak for himself. I don't want to speak for him, but it's basically the just in case or what if, or he finds it if he wants to. Yeah, he wants the option and he finds it effective to give a minor a warning from his experience, which is why if town keeps it, we would like it to be written out in the way that already happens, where it's tiered rather than you can get a fine or maybe community service or education. But yes.
And
That
hopefully
is-
he can attend a future
Mhm.
meeting, even just for a little bit.
Yeah, and he's been really great in our discussion. We went over the retail license as well, and he had some great input that's reflected in there as well. So hopefully he can come talk, but they don't want it removed entirely. I just want to be fully transparent in that.
So would he, again, I know this is an unfair thing, but do you have a sense of the sheriff's preference for it being just a fine or just education, or like to create equitable
So after the discussion, it seemed like he would be for that.
for picking one of the three?
Reword it, or yeah, if it's the code's reworded where first offense, this is going to happen to you. Second
Uh-huh.
offense, this is going to happen to you. So it's still there,
Mhm.
but yeah, but it's
So he's not deciding like, well, this kid's gonna get a fine and this kid's gonna get education.
right. Yeah, no. So right now it's, and I'm wondering too, I'm pretty sure, there's a liquor board. I'm not sure if there's a tobacco board. I'm wondering what happens, talking to Bruce as well, that we might want to extend the liquor and tobacco code board.
Mm.
Just because there are fines right now in the current retail license for cigarettes, but I'm not sure where they go to get their hearing or
Fines
get
and
heard.
community service, right? Fines or community service? Or
Well,
what is it?
separately for minors, yeah, fines or community service or $100, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
It's the current language. And you know what we'll do is if he's not, what we can do is get a statement from him so that we can present it
Mhm.
fairly and out and from his
Mhm.
words for the next meeting.
Great.
Absolutely. Yeah, I just wanted that point to be clear, since they are going to be directly impacted by it
Mhm.
as the enforcers. And yeah, that's it on minors in possession. Next, we're just going to share a bit with you some educational resources in Silverton. So Silverton School uses an alternative program called Second Chance. It's evidence-based and it's alternative to suspension, with the goal being restorative justice rather than punitive punishment. And on the topic of Silverton School as well, I just wanted to make it clear that even if the code is changed, minors in possession in the town, it does not affect Silverton Schools' policies and procedures. They have their own policies and procedures if a minor gets caught with tobacco on the school premises. And also, I did have a few meetings with our health teacher this year, introduced her to a preventative program called Catch My Breath. Catch My Breath educates youth about the dangers of vaping, and they can use those materials as they wish. And there's also a really great quit line, a new one out geared towards teens specifically. It's called My Life, My Quit. And those resources have been given to the school. They're at the clinic, they're at public health, and they are at the sheriff's department as well. And with that being said, we just want to thank you guys again for letting us present on these topics.
Thank you. Well done.
Any other questions or comments or anything that we need to be better prepared for the next time?
Yeah, like what do you want to see in the future for?
I wonder if, does Jim have any comments or questions? Just because he's another member of the committee here.
I think it's switched the order.
I think it's a great presentation. I thank you guys for what you're doing.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks, Jim.
Yeah, and in future meetings too, we could all get together with retailers. We could all get together with the sheriff's department and have these discussions. This is just the first draft here of an ordinance.
I think the thing that will potentially create some discussion for us with the whole board is that, I don't know, maybe the $100 amount and thinking,
Do you think they would think it should be increased or decreased?
I might suggest that.
Yeah, and you absolutely can. This is just a baseline. The $100 is if we're just doing the minimum checks required and
Yeah.
everything.
I would want to hear from the retailers and know like how that lands for them, but I think $100, like that, on the map, that range was really huge. I think it was everything from our $1 to
Yeah.
600 or something at the high end, and
That is,
Yeah, and maybe.
I'd be open to that discussion.
okay,
Great. And really, Amy informed really well, but just like, maybe look at a couple things of what does that allow?
Right. What does that get us?
What does like, great way to say it.
It'd also be interesting to quantify how much time we actually put into it. So like if we receive an application or when we process the renewal, is that like
Uh-huh.
1 hour of staff time? Is it 2.5 hours of staff time?
right. And on the enforcement side too, it'll take time to get compliance worksheets, talking to the DOR, preparing for that, recruiting. So we can get the time in there for it. And we can talk into more detail about that calculator. I'm sure Eric would be of help with that as well.
Yeah, we used to do audits, even Miss Julie with some of the youth would do store audits. And we'd go to the store and just kind of look around and see what kind of advertising it was, see if tobacco products were within arm's length, that kind of thing. And so I think just, as much evidence-based practice, state recommended things we can do, it just is really, we could do a lot more with that money. But I think as always, we tread lightly because
Mhm.
our community and we don't necessarily want to cause other problems that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that aren't worth like $100 increase.
Yeah.
I totally hear that.
Yeah.
The other
That's a
thing,
good start.
the other thing I was thinking about is the undercover operative. Like it's such a small community that feels like a difficult thing to pull off without making people, like if someone were to sell to the undercover operative
Absolutely.
level, I feel like what we should do in order to set them up for the most success ahead of that is to also provide training or educational resources for the retailers,
That's what
not just showing up.
That's what we're planning to do with the inspection as well, as more so going in, making sure they have all the materials. We'll be updating them continuously. So as Gloria's schedule with the fees, it seemed like the first fee wouldn't be due till January of 2023. And then the first compliance check may not be till, spring or fall of 2023, giving ample time to prepare. And in the price, we calculated some gas money because we know some youth from youth coalitions in Durango or Uray, and you can recruit from there. The state has started to
Definitely have to be more than $100 then.
so that would include a little, depending on where gas is, but the state has been starting to recruit, for example, like criminal justice freshmen from colleges, 19-year-olds, year-olds. To see.
And that's the best practice for enforcement.
Right, yeah, to recruit and under,
That's like an evidence-based enforcement practice.
not just for college students, but really anyone.
I mean, for businesses that are selling tobacco.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, okay.
And check, absolutely it is.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Great.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Have a good rest of your meeting.
Thanks.
Thanks for having me, everyone.
Thanks, Eric.
All right.
So in light of all this information that you just received, I would be asking for recommendations on moving forward with this, bringing it to the board, or going back with Amy to hash out some more details.
I'm comfortable bringing it to the board. And I think it is helpful if you have just the rough idea of like what the administrative work behind that.
Okay.
Like Shane's idea and was there one other thing?
I like the cap of like keeping it at the number of retailers that we have now and not expanding that further.
We'll have to discuss the cap and then the age of the clerk. Which I think we, in our small town with workforce.
Yeah.
Challenges, it seems like it's worth the discussion, but I can't imagine that we'd have a huge disagreement on that.
Okay, great. Some feedback. Amy, thank you. I know you've done so much.
I know, Amy, I know you've done so much on this, and Becky, thank you.
Maybe not the one this Sunday, to give retailers a chance to prepare their public comments and.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it wouldn't go this Monday. It would.
Oh, great. Okay. Just wanted to make sure that everyone's getting ample time to, if they have anything to say about it.
Absolutely. And I would need ample time to prepare that. Excellent. Are we?
Great, thanks, you guys.
Yeah, thanks so much. And happy birthday, please.
Thank you. How do you know that?
Quinn is.
Oh. Right, it's Betsy's birthday today.
Aw.
8-year-old.
One other suggestion would be getting the modified language that Bruce would be happy with for the minor in possession.
Nice, yeah, good catch.
So that it's already kind of drafted and laid out in a way that,
So I have two versions of it.
yeah, so that when it's presented, it's something that's already adoptable with Bruce's like.
With
support.
Bruce's input, we can just vote for it with that.
And then we'll also come with Bruce's statement if he can't be here first.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
Cool.
All right. So now we're moving on to the lighting ordinance. So I included a short memo on our current lighting codes in your packet. Our current lighting codes can be found in the zoning, and then from there it goes to supplemental regulations. Eventually we'll need to reorganize our codes and it would go into our development standards as well. But for now, Clayton advised that we should keep this in supplemental regulations. And Clayton also works for the town of Westcliff, who is a dark sky community, and was able to look at some of the exemptions they had adopted in their ordinance. But it was pointed out to me too from Cole that their ordinance is from the 2015 regulations, so things might have changed since then. And these exceptions have been included in the ordinance, and we can talk them through it as needed. I do have Cole Davenport here, who is our liaison with dark sky community, if you'd like to come up and present the ordinance.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Going over what I had drafted with the new standard of the 2018 lighting ordinances with the IDA. State their criteria for what they need for us to become a dark sky community. So I was looking over what you guys have probably in front of you. If I don't know if you guys went over it, but there was a few things that I've found in discrepancies, as Ms. Gloria had mentioned about the exemptions. The new ones that were drafted up, and I just went over with a few other people with the IDA too, with some liaisons. Let me put mine up here. We're in number 5 underneath non-conforming lights, section D. And number 1 would be public street lights and right-of-way lighting. Well, the IDA with this will like to see, of course, our 3000 kelvins involved in that, and our shielding, of course, involved in that. Exempting any public lighting will kind of defeat the purpose of this, if that makes sense. Also, there was another one underneath here where it says number 4, where it says lights are specifically required by federal, by the excuse me, the FAA. Well, I put underneath my original one, I put lights that are specifically required by the federal or state laws, which I kind of go hand in hand. Why would the federal state administration be specifically called out when it should be state and federal law? So that was one other thing I saw. And then going back again to where the whole lighting with number 4, if we go back to number 4 alpha, it is in general provisions and requirements. It goes back to where I said number 1 on the number 5 there, that was, which says public lighting and right of way lighting should be exempted. It says right here, number 4 alpha, excuse me, that the lights should be fully shielded and no rays of light should be trespassing onto other people's property. B, all utility lighting should be shielded and rays emitted and installed on fixtures and below the horizon plane. And E, where it said the 3,000 kelvins or less is encouraged. So that's what I was that's what I was finding my own discrepancies on what I have seen on the online agenda.
I didn't follow up. So A, B, and E of section 4 conflict with which part?
With 5D, number 1 underneath what you guys have with public street lighting rays.
Got it. Okay.
That's what.
I see. Okay.
Okay, and also, one other thing was taken out of my original draft. Exterior holiday lighting shall be exempted from section 4A from November 15th to January 31st. The IDEA does like to see a cap on certain things, so it doesn't overwhelm and people are just running I won't say a circus, but lack of better words, like Vegas. So that was one of the things that should be put back into the ordinances as well. A few other things. I don't see any other problems with recreational things are there, the posted heights. Other than that, I'm looking through my other notes. I believe that's the only discrepancies that I had on this.
Can you say again for me what you wanted to put back into it?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. The exterior holiday lighting shall be exempted from section 4 alpha from November 15th to January 31st. Other than that, I think that's the only thing that I saw that was any changes that I guess our attorney had made. Yeah, just keep in mind that, he is from the 2015, the West Cliff is, and we are underneath the 2018 guidance for the IDA.
So I was thinking about the seasonal decorative lighting. So for example, the town tree is up for a much longer period than that. And like our tours, like even though the holidays are from December to January.
We could put our dates on there as long as they see a date. So I think our tree comes down around like what, February 7th-ish? I think it usually comes.
Variety.
Give or take, what's that?
I was gonna say like our strongest tourism months in the winter are February and March.
Right.
So like to be like a winter holiday place, like some places I see with lights up obviously until the snow melts, and that's excessive. But I do know that like they want to feel like winter and seasonal and jolly.
We live in a snow globe anyhow. Yeah,
I was thinking about, the IDA is good with dates, even if it said like December 15th until March 31st.
We can work on those. I'm sure they'll be like, they just like to see something, but whatever dates you guys like with that, because you're right, I agree with you how tourists do like to see the snow globe effect here of that time frame. You're right. So yeah, I definitely would like to see, we could definitely go back and revise that and go over that, and however the town feels they want to have their lights off like that. I'm sure the IDA are gonna be, take a fit over that. Just like to see some kind of actual, date.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I also think about how dark it is in the winter, how early, and having the additional lighting can be.
It does help a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. And don't want to look like the town shut down.
Right.
I talked to a few other people about it, and they were like, these markers are just, I'm having trouble with them. But yeah, having talked to other people in town about it, it's the ambiance of the town needs to be preserved. and not trying to turn off the lights, of course. But they, you know, the ambient glow of the town does make it look nice to have coming down from the hill, from the mountain. So yeah, that's just the only thing that I have as far as discrepancies. I just wanted to make sure I put that to the board's attention, that was just a little bit, some things that we have needed to look back at. Also, I will be probably in the middle. I don't know if, I know you guys are gonna make a decision today on it, obviously. But also we'd be sending whatever we can get drafted up to the IDA, probably she gets back in on the 9th of July. So I don't know how quickly, if I could get some kind of draft up to them to make sure before we go and adopt something that we fine tooth and combed it.
Absolutely, we can do that.
I had one question on the outdoor recreation area for R.
Which one? I'm sorry?
For R, we don't have night skiing currently, but we do night skiing, and potentially, you know, if Kendall ever has lights on it.
Well, yeah, that should be that. Yeah,
On,
that'd be field lighting. That would be exempted. That'd be exempted because you guys usually turn everything off before 10 anyhow. So, I mean, that would be totally exempted for that time being.
it would
don't think-
fall under the exemption.
Right. So I don't think you would have to, you know, we wouldn't be required to have a permit for none of that. I mean, I don't know how you guys do it right now. Would be none the same.
Yeah, I don't either. And I know that like they aren't shielded lights or, you know, they,
But that's be like ball field lighting. That'd be kind of go under the same criteria.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, illuminating, lights illuminating.
Wonder if it's with naming.
That's the outdoor, you're right. See, 4R outdoor exemption from the provisions of this meet.
Specifically.
I mean, we could, I mean, if you play fields, I don't know, surface,
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Similar uses. Mhm.
yeah. I mean, I think that that covers that pretty well.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. Recreational.
The cover memo, section 6,
Oh.
which
Okay,
was Clayton's suggestion. And we could just call out skiing specifically.
great.
You want to put an extra one in there for ski exemption?
I was like in 6C in the cover memo, it says limits on hours of illumination, exterior, or I'm 6 generally, where it says lighting for rec. And then it talks about ball playing fields, tennis courts, and similar uses. I think we could just add.
Wait a minute, this one is probably on the mine. Hold on just one second. Sorry, let me pull up the other one. And this one is under which category? Which one is it? Number 6? Okay, so this, okay, yeah, this was added in. Okay, I didn't, yeah, this is not on my notes. Okay, so yeah, outdoor recreational uses, yeah. Ball field, diamond, play fields, tennis courts. So that would cover like everything, the park, everything at Kendall Mountain.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. Yep, that's, yeah, we thought this was a good one, but I don't know about 11 PM. I don't know how town goes with that, but however it works for it all.
Never goes to 11, but
Well, if it sounds good, it sounds good.
yeah, it's good.
And then if we ever had like a more special event, like so, you know, some crazy thing
Yeah.
goes till 2 a.m.
Yeah,
The town council does have the ability to prevent or present discretionary exemptions.
Yeah, but what is it over here? Probably on number 7, appeals and variances.
thanks.
Yeah,
I'm excited about this.
I think we all are. But yeah, anywho, if you guys got any other questions for me, that's all I had as far as discrepancies. Does the town attorney, sir, do you have any questions for me?
Clayton, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, just
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Oh, this is Cole. I was just wondering if you had any other questions for me, sir. Must be all the rain we're getting.
We don't hear you now, Clay. Nothing.
Yeah, I don't think it's.
Oh, there you go. You guys went off there for a second. I can't.
All right. So Cole was asking if you had any clarifying questions based on what he was just presenting. We lost you again. It's like, my question would be if there's the exempting public streets and rights of way does seem to defeat the purpose because that's some of our brightest lighting in town. And I do know that a lot of our lighting doesn't have, it's not even directional, it's just a full 360 flood, which has been a problem for some businesses. And that updates to our town lighting to be in line with this and also to be like a little nicer for ambiance would be good. So rather than accepting it, it would be nice to create a plan that aligns everything.
Yeah, when I first started presenting this, I did talk to San Miguel County or Power, excuse me, and they did say, and they did send me all their information on the street lights inside the town. We are compliant 100% with those.
We are already.
Yes,
Oh, cool.
we are 100% already compliant. There's maybe a few of them in town that might not be, but with talking with them, they said that they just call them up and replace them.
Oh,
But I just, as I'm understanding that we rent them from them anyhow. So we pay for that maintenance to say. So that's a positive thing that we have going for us right now too.
I guess it'd be helpful that
And
we confirm that.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Clay.
Your guys' sound is back up. So if you wanted to restate the question, because right when you were asking that question, the sound cut out.
We were asking if you had any further clarification points or questions for Cole based on what he presented.
No, I thought the ordinance and the regulations were really well put together. The big thing is going to be, the transfer and enforcement piece. But I had made all the comments on the ordinance itself. And, as long as it's, if we're going for dark sky certificate of compliance, obviously we have to match the lumen requirements, and they actually, come out and do like the whole thing and certify you. So just be aware that, it isn't like a, hey, we did it, and then they send us a certificate. Like they're serious about it. But I think the ordinance is well written. I wouldn't have anything else to add. I did add some different exceptions, and of course that's certainly subject to your comments and draft and change based on needs of the community as well.
Okay, thank you.
Sounds good.
great.
Awesome. Well, if there's anything else,
Hi, Cole. I apologize, I'm not able to broadcast video. I think this is great. I'm still 110% in favor of the Dark Skies Initiative. You and I tested the lighting on the Grand, and each one of the bulbs here at the hotel are 800 lumen, just under 3000 Kelvin as far as the brightness. And I think what we're doing is going to be a great thing for our community down the road. I'm all about it. So thank you for what you're doing.
thank you very much, Mr. Harper. Appreciate that. We'll definitely be talking with all the community and hopefully getting everybody more involved in it and have some more fun with this, especially bringing out telescopes and everything and having all of the cool things and come associated with this. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So as far as any staff directions for edits, I had written down possibly not exempting streetlights. And then, because it sounds like we're already in compliance, and so it's not
Confirming.
right.
Yeah.
You have to confirm that. And then you had said that A, B, and E conflict with the exemptions, is that right?
Of 5-1.
5-1.
Yes. No. 5-Delta-1, excuse me, 5D1.
5D, oh, that's. Thank you.
And you know, one thing we can always do in the ordinance, Cole, is we can add a clause that just says any other ordinances, regulations, resolutions, et cetera, that conflict with the current ordinance, that the current ordinance supersedes. And then give administrative power to staff to edit any of our, because there's going to be more than that. I bet you anything, you know, there's going to be quite a few buried in, you know, the what do you guys call it? You guys call it like HROC and AROC and all that. But in all those building ordinances, we're going to see other conflicts. And so we need to just add like a cleansing clause that just says, hey, this supersedes all of their ordinances and staff has the power to make any necessary changes to conflicting ordinances and code.
Gotcha. Yes, sir.
And then also adding the holiday lighting times
The dates.
and put in some dates and we can discuss those dates as a board.
Yeah.
Okay,
I feel like a good starting point seems like mid-December to end of March.
okay.
I guess I'd also want to double check that the outdoor rec exception specifics are aligned with the lights available to us. Because it says specific things like maximum post height of 80 feet, maximum permitted illumination at property line, 2-foot candles. The time seems fine.
Yeah, I don't know where
Yeah.
Mr. Clay here got that from. I was kind of curious about, actually, I do have a few questions about that. I mean, Mr. Clay, where did you actually come up with the other provisions that was described on this, like the whole, what Mr. Mayor was here talking about, the whole maximum 80 feet, the 2-foot candles? Well, where did you come up with this by chance?
That's just kind of like a generic and middle of the road, you know, limitations. That was part of my comment earlier that, you know, these exceptions are general and, you know, you should discuss and see what's best for your community. Certain communities don't want like big lights up on poles. You know, certain communities have very large, and even like, just as an example, like if you were ever to want to put up big lights, you know, on the ski hill there, so you could do night skiing, you know, it's easier, of course, to carve out an exception in the first place and then to go back and, like, you know, have to undo it.
No, it makes sense to basically cover ourselves for the future changes of some sort.
I was just imagining the unintended consequence of like a funny administrative thing where it's like the lights we've been getting aren't aligned with this and they're $250 for the night, but we could get lights that align with this, but it's $1,000 a night.
Yeah.
We end up doing that instead of just changing the ordinance.
No, understandable. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, just, I mean, you keep in mind, you can come back and change, add exceptions, do whatever you want to the ordinance whenever you want. And in the meantime, if something doesn't make sense as applied, just don't enforce it.
Yeah.
Until you can get an ordinance.
Yeah,
changed.
I get a little nervous when we start referencing other documents and then,
Cross-referencing.
yeah, and then coming into like a really practical situation where it just doesn't make any sense. But it sounds like there's some good language that helps us around that. But I think in general, it's good for us to like strive for clarity in the first place, because it just seems like a lot of, yeah. Because confusion just creates problems.
Well, I made sure when I was drafting this that I did cross-reference everything throughout our own town ordinances that we have existing for zoning and other things. I mean, going online and just typing in certain keywords on the municipality website was able to, you know, say, hey, look, this would contradict this, that, and the other. And like Mr. Clay said here, and thank you for that about my drafting. But yeah, I try to do it as, you know, the best as for the community as possible. But there's like little things like we have to do like the mid-December, March, or however we're gonna kind of tweak it a little bit. It was just like he said, it was some recommendations that I put in there too, but just get the ball rolling.
Great.
Awesome.
Anything else, ladies and gentlemen?
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Cliff.
No, thank you guys for listening and helping out. It's been a great thing. It's fun.
Cool.
Passion of mine.
Good.
All right, well, y'all have a great rest of your afternoon now. Appreciate it. Cheers, y'all. Thank you very much. Right, have a good day.
Yeah, all right, so I do have those items to look into before we present it to the board as a whole. Does that work?
Perfect.
Thanks.
Should we now hear from Carol?
Carol, yes, I think you're gonna like what I have to say, Carol, about our event stuff, so. I'm gonna promote you to panelists now, Carol, if that's okay.
Hi there.
Hi.
Hi.
Hey, Carol.
Thank you. So Gloria, I was interested to hear what you had to say.
Well, I'll just do my quick intro for you, and this might help you kind of organize your thoughts on around this. But basically, we're bringing this ordinance back for your review. It's important to get special events ordinance on the books so that we can move forward with special events guide. I'm happy with the guide. I'm not happy with the guide, and I've talked with Nate starting from scratch again. Because I feel like we're not there. And he's in agreement because we're really been struggling to try and modify that guide, but I think we need to start scrapping that guide and start again. But the ordinance itself is at a place where we feel comfortable presenting it to you all again. It is the guide that we are major struggles with on how to make that. It just, I mean, I had my husband look at it as fresh eyes, and he does events and was very confused. So full disclosure, we haven't had the time, nor Nathan and myself, to adequately review and address the guide. It is a complicated document. And to get it to talk to the ordinance was very complicated. And so thinking about it as, yes, we like the ordinance, but we've got a lot of legwork to do on the guide, because as we were taking public comments, we were really trying to incorporate them into the guide. We're probably going to be starting from scratch again. So Carol, go right ahead. I'm sorry to jump in front, but I thought you should know that as before you spoke.
No, I appreciate that. And I did have a couple comments on the guide, but I won't go into that. I'll just email you. But the ordinance, I did have one, I needed some clarification on that. And that was in section 5, subsection 3. Let me pull it up. So it says if the application is denied or conditionally approved, the coordinator shall inform the applicant in writing of the grounds for denial or the conditions on the permit and the applicant's right of appeal under section 8. If the coordinator and or the board of trustees relied on the information about the event other than that contained in the application, they shall inform the applicant of such information. Is there any kind of time on that when you would let the applicant know?
We did not put a time frame on that.
Okay. I didn't know if it was like maybe like you know, like a day, 10 days, because it seems like everything else has like a time frame on it.
Yeah, so we intentionally left that one out of that section. Because we didn't know, as far as if there was more information that we didn't receive, we didn't know like what that timing would look like. So we didn't want to restrict ourselves to a time frame on that specific line item.
Okay.
Carol, is that something that you would want to see? And if so, what would your,
Well,
what would you recommend?
It just kind of leaves it out there in the, you know,
Yeah,
in
wondering.
the ethosphere and just wondering like, well, you know, how long will we get to bring this back around?
Mm-hmm.
If it will be immediate or not. I mean, it just seems like it kind of, it doesn't give the applicant very like, oh, okay, well, I should know within a week, like
Right.
why, you know, and I'm just using those days as an example. So that was my only comment on that. So, yeah, and other than that, yeah, so everything else. is
Carol,
fine.
is there, what seems like a fair, just in your opinion, what's a fair time frame for that notice?
I would think it says, like in the subsection 1, it says within 10 business days. So I would think, keeping along that same line
Yeah,
is all.
okay.
So, yeah. Okay. Well, that was I guess that's my only comment.
Thank you,
Well,
Carol.
thank you.
Please email me those comments on the guide. And now you know that we're gonna be starting from scratch.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you all.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Carol.
Carol.
Oh, and Lisa would like to comment as well.
Great. Could I ask a question about that section real quick? So if we did modify it to include, so since section 1 says the coordinator is going to approve, conditionally approve or deny the application within 10 business days if it's an event for under 75 people. Would it make sense to put that same language in section 3? Because if they're going to make the decision, it doesn't seem like informing the applicant within a certain period, like 48 hours within making of the decision would be that hard. Because all it is just saying, hey, we already made this decision.
Oh, okay, so you're saying put that.
So like within 48 hour, or within 2 business days of the application being denied, conditionally approved, or approved, the coordinator will notify. Because that also means,
Okay.
then I guess you don't even have to mirror the language, because if you're just saying within 2 business days of a decision, we'll let you know. That would also include if the event's more than 75 people and isn't decided within 10 days, it still would be within 2 business days of the decision being made.
So maybe just a little bit more clarifying language there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're not suggesting to remove it from section 5 and put it in a different section. You're just saying.
I'm just saying, if once the coordinator's made a decision,
Yeah.
they'll let the applicant know within 2 business days.
Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm.
And then that doesn't change all of the different time periods under which they might make the decision.
Right. Yeah. Have a cascading effect.
Hi, Lisa, you have this now, if you'd like to.
Whatever it is.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
We can.
Hi, Lisa.
Awesome. Hi, everybody. I would just kind of reiterate what Carol said as far as giving folks an opportunity, since if something's denied, like that 24 or 48 hour window, like Shane was just talking about, it's really good to know what our turnaround time is going to be on a decision so that we can be responsive and make sure we continue to meet deadlines that the town is requiring of us for the application from that point forward. So I think that's awesome if you could include some language like that. And I also just wanted to say thank you for being responsive and involving some folks from the community in this process, and I hope you continue to do so. There are folks who've been organizing events, myself included, that I think can help really streamline this for everybody. So I really appreciate the fact that you've been taking that feedback to heart, and hope that will continue to be the case going forward. Gloria, thanks so much for being willing to listen. I know we came back at you with a lot of comments and questions, and we definitely appreciate your time and diligence with this.
Great. Thanks for being
really
a
all
part
I
of the
wanted to say.
process.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Lisa. And thank you, Gloria. And thank you, Nathan.
Yeah. Okay, so with that, it seems like the committee is in agreement with notifying them within 2 days of their denial.
Or 5 or whatever.
Right, whatever it is, timeframe, so that they know when they need to move forward. Totally makes sense. Is there any other comments on the ordinance?
Whatever Lisa Brander says.
Okay.
And Carol.
On record.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, and so then our plan of action next would be eventually adopting this ordinance in the near future with, as it does reference a special events guide. So we've been kind of waiting for that. But what we'd like to do is give you guys another rough draft of a special events guide when we can get the capacity to do that, and then make it so that it can be a changeable guide. And that's kind of what we did when we presented it all to you in February. I think that's when or the end of January, February. But we just, yeah, we have not, and I finally got the capacity to kind of look through it and really dig into it, pretend like I was doing my event. And we've gotten great feedback from the community as well. So I think we have the tools we need. We just need the time to do it.
So that was my last question is it, what's your preference? That we eliminate the reference to the guide and move the ordinance along ahead of the guide, or delay the ordinance, keep the reference to the guide and wait until the guide's ready?
Well, and that I would actually ask Clayton if we could adopt this ordinance without having a finalized guide.
But continue to have the reference to it.
Right. But I would love to have an ordinance in place at some point, because we do not have an ordinance right now, and things are coming up where, like, for example, allowing boys fees in the parade.
Right.
You know, and it is a special event, and how that is defined is much different than our normal operations. And that's why it's a special event. So having that on the books would really help with our decision-making a little bit moving forward.
Right.
So Clayton, do you have?
Just add language that says that references the guide and comma as amended from time to time, period.
And then it's okay if we don't have the official guide completed before the ordinance is adopted.
Yeah, I mean, we could add language, but I would just say again, I mean, you could, if it's not adopted and you're worried about somebody, you know, playing gotcha, then put, you know, the guide, you know, as adopted by the BOT and as amended from time to time. And then if there's not one adopted, then that's fine. And that gives you room to play with the guide without having to, you know, go back and change the ordinance too.
Okay. I think adding that language is a good idea.
Okay.
I don't know what you think.
I agree.
Okay.
Do you have any thoughts? Oh, I'm sure you have tons, but on this particular.
I have plenty of thoughts. Just kidding. No, I like the discussion. It's good. But whatever we can do to assist the applicants and streamline the process. I full-heartedly agree with Lisa Branner about the turnaround time and assisting those individuals and those groups that are applying for any sort of permit. Having been one myself numerous times, I believe that having this process more user-friendly is the goal for everybody. Thanks.
Great.
And that's really our goal, is to make it easy, simple process going forward. It's just really complicated to get there.
Simple is complicated.
So complicated, yes. So we will work on those two sections, the section 5, adding language and adding a time frame in there, and then the language to adopt the ordinance kind of without the completed guide. Does that work? Okay, wonderful. Excellent. Wow, that's perfect timing, Bevan.
I just keep thinking about that, the graphic that I think you showed us. That was like the best path to get to,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
like the best result looks like this.
Yeah.
exactly what we're doing.
Yeah.
We want a good process too, so we're not pushing anything through that's not gonna fit.
Yeah.
And then are we good with this agenda item? Okay. And our last one is new business, and I wanted to bring up a couple of things. So we do have a building code we're looking at switching over to the 2015 building code. when we adopted the 2008 building code, it was presented as an update to the municipal code, stating that we use the 2008 building code. There are minor changes from 2008 to 2015, including energy efficiency standards and sprinkler systems. But other than that, it's pretty similar. So my plan was to present the new ordinance, which literally just states we're going from one building code to the other. But I was wondering how the committee would like us to present that information, if you want any additional information into the building code, or how do you think that would be best presented to the trustees?
Is it possible to anticipate what the most impactful changes are to builders?
That is why Bevan's in here.
Like just a super high level overview, like these efficiency standards changed. The feedback from builders when adopting the 2015 code was that it increases cost by 8%, but makes the efficiency of the home so much better that the owner ends up saving money over, like that kind of thing.
Okay.
Like these are the high level notes of the shift from 2008 to 2015.
That feasible?
And not to like that to be where it's like,
I don't know that I can get percentages on what.
that was just a very specific, silly example.
Yeah.
Yeah. The big ones are energy efficiency. And that applies to how we're building homes that are tighter, more insulation. So we've gone from a 21 wall to 25, 20 plus 5. But I can do what I can to see how the industry has seen the benefits of it for sure.
Or just sticky, Shane's kind of going for highlights, but I'm going for like, just tell me the sticky points.
Yeah.
If there's something that's gonna create, frustration or,
I don't see anything on that. I mean, we can try to provide audits as options for those that want to improve their efficiency in their homes. But new homes, like Aspen has improvised that all new homes require a blower door test. So that is a reflection of how tight the homes are.
Yeah.
You also, when you build them that tight, you want airflow and you want healthy airflow. So now you're seeing the introduction of HRVs, which are heating return ventilation systems. And the other areas, key points are like decks, a lot more emphasis on making sure that they're stronger and they meet the codes required for the weight, whether it be people or smell on them. Joist bands, the way they're fastened to the building. The other thing that impacts energy, wind. So there have been wind changes, wind speed, and it does affect us. We've gone from 90 to 110, as well as 110 on snow load from 90. And then there's flood zones, doesn't affect us quite as much, but it's affected a large swath. And it could affect rivers for sure. But I think energy can pervade slowly. It's improved windows, doors, insulated doors. The most important area is probably insulation on your roof. That's where you lose most heat. I'd say the other area in the code that's important are both sprinkler systems, and we're seeing it. You either have to have fire suppression or you've got to have a 2-hour fire code. So the rating has got to be for 2 hours on a wall. They're starting to put additional fireproofing in floors. And then smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors now fire alarms have to be hardwired in. carbon monoxide have to be in, certainly in rooms that have gas or wood burning stoves, kitchens, that, you know, any area where you're burning fuels.
So, I mean, that kind of high level, is that adequate for presentation? 'Cause it would be really tedious, I think, to go through the entire building code with you all, so.
Yeah.
And that's what I noticed from the last time that we updated the building code. It was literally just like the section of the municipal code that references what building code we're using. So it just says we are using 2015.
Right.
We are using 2008.
So that's what it just needs to be updated to.
Yeah.
We are using 2015.
Yes.
Great, okay. I think it was really helpful to have you kind of highlight like there's fire, there's energy efficiency, and there's some structural change.
Yeah, I mean, there are areas Durango uses 2006 code for walls. So you kind of you have to evaluate year by year whether it's worth updating to the next code change in the IRC. Whether or not it would impact your area. You know, certainly for here, having higher R values for wall, floor, and roof make a difference. Requiring, you know, it's our own town code requirement for encapsulating the whole roof in like a ice and water shield or stone ice. Things like that make a difference. My concern here is smoke detectors, air, and certainly, you know, fire, chimney fires. For sure. Maybe we had a couple of scares this winter, so.
Yeah.
And then electric, you know, cords, stripped, underrated. I mean, the town is rife with homes that need to be updated electrically. So that any of that will help keep people safer. Egress, there are changes to egress between 06, 09, and certainly 15. And it's basically increasing the size, the height of the floor, accessibility.
Okay.
So upon further consideration, because I tend to speak and then realize I don't know that highlighting all the differences, even the high level categories, is necessary for the trustee presentation. I think what's more important is having some type of like, and I'm sure that this exists from when the 2015 code was adopted, but having like a builder's handbook of the things that changed that we can provide as educational materials to anyone who's applying for a building permit or who's doing work in town. And I'm sure that that's a resource that I'm very confident that's a resource that must exist because of all of the places that have shifted from 2008, 2015 building codes. I think like just a super high level summary is probably fine for the trustee presentation. And that you recommend doing this because, you know, it increases safety, it increases efficiency.
Yeah, like in the memo.
For the community as they come in, but for your purposes to adopt the new 2015, just super high level.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then
that's really where I wanted to I wasn't sure how to present this. I really wanted to kind of pick my committee's brain on this.
And my knee-jerk comment was thinking more about what I think Sally was just asking about also is like the sticky points, which are things that I think would raise an eyebrow for the community as they hear us adopting this. And one would be increased costs to be compliant. And then also, to what extent does it change updates to historic structures? Because I know that like if you only have to pull a building permit if you're doing something like substantive, like if you're changing load-bearing walls or really getting into the guts of the building, aesthetic changes don't trigger updates. But like we have lots of buildings that don't meet the 2015 code, that don't meet that aren't sprinklered, that don't have elevators with ADA compliance, things like that. So to what extent does adopting this impact any of those existing structures up to the point that they do like a substantive renovation?
Right. I think it would be unrealistic to try and expect us to update historic structures to the 2015 code standards. I think for any addition or any significant remodel that goes to the, stud walls, then they could potentially update it, but whether it be required is another question. I think if it applies to like health and safety, like, putting in 4 to 6 apartments in a old building, then the requirements for fire code safety would have to apply.
For sure.
You may not be able to achieve energy standards, but that really depends on the existing structure. You could on a roof probably.
So is your question more just, are we making that requirement, or the concern that someone may interpret our adoption of this ordinance and start to have concerns about like a renovation project that they're about to start?
The question more is like, are there impracticalities of adopting this, given the historic nature of many of our structures? And do we put ourselves in a position where we're going to be constantly making exceptions to the 2015 building code in order to maintain the historic nature of the town?
And so Bill has gone through it with a fine tooth comb, been going through it. He wants to get this done before he turns it all over to Bevan. So he's been going through it with a fine tooth comb, and there are some things like with the sprinkler system, their new requirements aren't really feasible for us, or it's just a little too much, I would say, as far as putting like sprinkler systems in like a single family home or something.
Yeah, I remember being really stressed about the sprinkler system.
Right, and so.
Like this room isn't sprinkled.
Right.
There are those exceptions in there that we stick with like a prior code on, and so say we're staying with the 2008 on that particular one, but we're moving to 2015 on that.
And that's something Bill is texting, Mark.
Yes.
Is he? Okay.
Yeah, he spent a lot of time looking at all that, so want to give him credit for that one.
I think this is a really good, much needed update. I'm just trying to think through how best it can be presented.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I wanted to, I feel like the building code is a very significant piece of our code. And so I just wanted to kind of bring it all to you guys on kind of the best way to present this and get this information out there.
And like fire safety, there are ways that you can meet standards. Like if you don't have fire suppression, you can have a 2-hour fire rating on a ceiling and a wall. And that will provide a similar sense of security for inhabitants until they get out, or, give fire department enough time to get there to put out the fire, but it'll buy you time. So there are ways that we can work with people on it. And I think it's not necessarily an as, per case basis, but certainly if you're doing an addition, you can meet standards. But to come to a building like this and require that it be updated is something.
Hey, Jim, did you have any comments or feedback?
No, thank you very much. I like the fact that we're moving along with this. I also appreciated your comments regarding older structures. Historic designation exempts a lot of the buildings from having certain upgrades needed to them and for them. And we just need to be mindful when we move forth on this. Thanks.
Thanks, Jim.
That was great feedback. So when I do present it to you all, because I was going to put in the board, like in this packet, but it just literally states like we are using this code. So I kind of wanted to have more of a discussion about it before it comes to the trustees.
I have a vague recollection of sitting at a meeting shortly after moving here And the topic came up and there were a handful of builders that showed up that were like, this is totally impractical. The cost to build to be aligned with this is just way too high. But I do think the cost to build has already come up quite a bit. I think materials, the expectation of what materials you're buying are much more aligned with the 2015 requirements anyway now. And I don't think we'll see the same pushback we saw back in whenever that was 2015, right when it was happening.
Right.
But I think I just remember that and want to anticipate the concerns or questions that we might field.
Absolutely. All right. And then next thing on new business, sorry, I just had a quick update. The compensation study that I had talked about beforehand. I reached out to you, Ray, and they've not completed their compensation study yet this year. So I've been kind of waiting on that. But at the same time, like, I would like, and I had showed you all a version of the one that I completed at the beginning of the year. There is a training happening through the, now I want to get it right because they changed their names. The Employment Council of Colorado on compensation and how to adequately adjust it. It's $100. I was thinking of taking it in order to kind of help facilitate this going forward. I would really like to address some of the compensation of their key staff as we've been hiring on at higher rates, but our department heads have not seen that same kind of increase. So basically we're hiring on lowest level and they're catching up to where we're at. So kind of really thinking about soon a compensation adjustment. So wanted to forewarn you on that and then any feedback on how to facilitate that.
I'm supportive of that. I think that it seems like our senior staff have had pretty stagnant salaries for a while. We were in like a town deficit for a while as well. And that it seems like an appropriate time with amount of work the town's been doing and all the achievements of the town that we reevaluate the senior staff salaries. And then also your 1-year anniversary is recently passed. And it seems like an appropriate time to also evaluate a step up in salary for all of your successes in the last year.
Great, thank you. I appreciate that. So I guess from
And I support taking the course if that supports the work that you have to do. If it just feels like an extra thing that you don't need to reevaluate the structure to that, then.
To be honest, I already have a whole plan laid out. I'm just trying to figure out how best to present it.
So great.
And I think that would probably be something that I would have to do in executive session because it is a salary based. So possibly this next board, not this meeting, but maybe on the 11th or in July or August, doing kind of an adjustment for the fourth, and it would the salary increases would start in the fourth quarter. But I also want you guys to trust that I'm making these sustainable choices moving forward and that we can fund this. So that's kind of where I'm at on that. Great. And that's why I suggested the council, just so that you saw that I had some training behind me. And I'm actually really interested in that one to pursue, just to make sure that I'm on the right track.
Great.
Yeah, I mean, one of our top priorities was retention.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is
That's right.
directly aligned with that.
Okay. Jim, you have anything on that one?
No, ma'am.
Okay. That's all I have for you all, unless you have new business for me. All right.
Good.
Sorry for the late start. Thank you all for the meeting, and we are ending at 4:22. And just a point of clarification, our board is consistent, our committee consists of Jim, Sally, and Shane. So just for future clarification there.
Jeff was just super eager.
He went.
Nice.
All right, thank you all, and we will end this meeting.